She is also a pioneer of entrepreneurship in Bulgaria, mentor at 11, mentor and judge at Intel Business Challenge, and she initiated a new Europe-wide program called StartUP. Am I right? Okay, sorry. Which means it's a big honor for me to invite on stage Milena Stoycheva. Please sit over there, the high chair. Yeah. You can pull it a little bit forward. Sure. Okay. And now, the facilitator of the discussion, a member of our business department at AUBG, teaching multiple of marketing courses, Milena Nikolova. The rest don't need any more presentation. Just come on stage, guys. Please make yourself comfortable. You have 2 mics. Don't forget to ask questions so that we can post them on the wall. One more here. Okay, that's enough with the preparations. Wish you good luck. Have a nice time.
Thank you. First, I want to thank for the opportunity to be here. It is this excitement and fun and innovative thinking, and this energy that makes me, as a member of the AUBG community, excited to be here on a Sunday and to be working every day to the extent that I can about creating more buzz and more excitement about entrepreneurship at the American University in Bulgaria. So, without further ado, I would like to launch the discussion that we are about to have. And I would like to start first by setting the context with our panelist here, Milena Stoycheva from Junior Achievement, and actually ask her first to tell us a little bit about how Junior Achievement supports entrepreneurs, young entrepreneurs and student entrepreneurs in succeeding, and why is it important to have these kinds of discussions about being successful at pitching in venues like this.
Okay, hello everyone. First, before I answer all of these questions, I wanted to share with you something that actually is very special for me, because I started my sort of more conscious life actually by starting AUBG. So it feels really it is moving every time I come to the university, because when I started here, I was only 23 years old and I was dressed up as a hippie. I came to the interview with the president of the American University, the first one, and he asked me, why do you want to work here and what is your experience? And I said, you know, I've always dreamt of doing something that I can just think about and then be able to realize. And then I hope that you are actually someone who likes rock and roll and blues, and we can also have fun working together. And then he told me, you know what, I would have wanted you to start last week. And so I showed up in my hippie dress at the first meeting with the parents of the students to introduce the results of the admissions. And they all said to me, you are the dean of students. And they turned to the president, she's going to be here in charge of... He said, yes, she is. She said, no, it's not possible. We don't want to enroll our students. Anyhow, what I meant is that first experience I had that first year was actually a proof that the American university was already an entrepreneurial institution, because what it did, it allowed for people to start with a good idea, with their belief, with their dream, and it actually make it work. And later on, the first 3-4 classes of students who are now very established entrepreneurs, and they are people in the leaders in their community. They're most of all happy people also, but they were students who were allowed to live, to flourish, to function in an environment, which is one thing that is extremely important for entrepreneurship and for startups to actually exist. And this is where I move on to my current job, which is junior achievement. And what I love about it is actually the fact that we're working in an area which is education. We are facilitating the process for young people and for students to go through a positive experience while studying. And third, we are actually allowing and providing opportunities for them to grow and to be successful in their lives. So that is why I've been with JA now for 17 years, and it has been also an enterprise, an entrepreneurial venture for me. And I really would love to see that this type of education, which is based on the learning by doing, on exactly this experience of starting something of your own and going through it, I really hope that it becomes part of the learning process for every student in the country and then in many other places.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now that we've set the stage, I want to start with some more specific questions. Were these kinds of presentations the presentations that you guys pitched with at 11? Or these are different versions? They're shorter? Okay. But content-wise, they're the same? The visual, the feel, everything is the same?
Well, mine is not the same as on selection days at 11, so we upgraded it.
Okay.
I mean, every time you do a presentation, you try to make it better.
Okay.
If I may add something, well, selection days was almost 3 months ago, or even 4, and this is a really long time for a startup. But this is very similar presentation to what we might use in our next round of funding.
Okay, all right. So then my next question is very logical. Can you identify, because we at least have the feel of what your presentations looked like or felt like, can you identify the 1 or 2 most important factors that actually you think made you succeed at that 11 pitch? Because all of you have successfully passed that experience. So what are these 1 or 2 most successful factors?
If I may start, because I joined the team later after it was accepted in 11, you saw that our presentation wasn't well designed. However, the product is really useful. So the person who started it, he applied at 11 for 3 consecutive times, and he got rejected each time. And on the last selection days, the guys from 11 called him because they saw that he made development within the product. He was part also of the pre-accelerator. So I would say that the 2 most important things are the idea that you have and to show that you're working on it, and without even being selected, that you're working anyhow because you believe in your idea and your startup.
Okay.
And something which I can add is what kind of funding you're looking for. The investor should look for that particular information. At 11, they were impressed about our traction, that we are starting somewhere. I mean, it depends on the project. But then when I was in San Francisco, they were impressed about the size of the team. So it means to them that we are working, we are progressing in one or another way. So it's more or less how much money you're looking for and the traction.
Okay, so does that mean that before every pitch you do your own homework in terms of finding out what are the the aspects that are going to be impressive for the investor or accelerator fund?
So you need to be prepared. I mean, in our portfolio we have more than 30, 40 presentations. Each one is relevant to a particular audience. Even for this one I was wondering what should I add, but I said, okay, probably a good example is something what we did a month ago. So, yeah.
Okay.
A tip or trick is to have a working demo, to have a product. This is most important, I think.
Okay. Some other ideas for success factors?
I would refer to checking the audience before making the presentation. So we dived into the 11 community for several months before the actual selection days. So we gathered a lot of insight about how these guys think, what do they see, what do they look like in the startups. And before our final presentation, we finally managed to get the feedback that they already know the problem very well. So this helped us shift the focus from the problem to the traction that Sergey mentioned, that we also showed, and not lose so much time on telling the story of a crafter who has these and these problems. Okay. So it was really vital that we knew what their mindset was and what their expectations were set on.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
I think for most of the investors, they have a simple rule of thumb. If you have a demo, if you don't, if you have a team for 5 years working together, if you're not, if you have strong commitment already incorporated selling, so I think it's a rule of thumb.
Okay, so based on what everybody mentioned, I would summarize that a good balance between the stage of development of your business idea and the product, and then also having good insights and being smart about knowing what are the expectations of the investor or accelerator that you're pitching at.
And also something very important is that you have to show what you have invested, whether it's time and money, and you need to have also a very clear call for action. So what do you want from them? And you have to be in control of the situation. So you have to know very clearly what to get out of the situation. Therefore, you need to be very well prepared.
Okay, so demonstrate strong commitment to what you're doing.
Exactly.
Okay, excellent. Some of you mentioned failure, and I think that failure is actually one of the things that's disregarded in many other contexts, but in the context of entrepreneurship is actually considered to be a value. So I would like to talk a little bit about how, whether you've experienced failure specifically in pitching, and how you have learned from that.
Yes, sir.
Yes, please.
Well, we have dozens of failures, but maybe I can touch upon a few of them. In terms of funding, some time ago, we were presenting at more or less similar event, and we got interest from 2 young guys with big pockets. So apparently they were very successful, I think, in top 5 poker players in Netherlands. So they were young, enthusiastic, very easy to talk to, not very experienced though. So they got another person on board of their part, another shark, I would call it shark. He was very professional in investing. And we started kind of negotiating, but we were kind of a bit, we were thinking, can we bootstrap, or do we really need them? At that point, we didn't need them that much, so we didn't have a clear strategy of what we want to take out of the situation. So we were not prepared that well, and they were very eager. They wanted to invest. For them, it's kind of one hand on poker, so they don't care that much. They were ready, but we are kind of not ready. So I think very important is to, as I said, to be in control of the situation, and you need to know what you want, how to get it. So with them it didn't turn out well, and at the end they lost interest, and we were not also that, it was not a big failure, but it was a big learning experience. And another one, which was some time ago, afterwards, we also had interest from other Dutch professional investors, and we talked to them, we negotiated, but they had their own agenda, and they wanted this agenda. In the beginning, we were a bit, we didn't know what they really want, and we were not in control as well. and in the end there was a mismatch of expectations on both parties, and it didn't work out as well.
Okay, thank you. Some other?
Yeah, something which I have to share is once we start, our product was, our MVP was at the StartUP weekend, so we decided, okay, we have the idea, we have something, so we can start looking for funding. 11, Launch Hub, even we apply in different places. But what we discovered that it is not the right time to look for money at that time. So we heard what are the main challenges and what the investors are looking for. So then for 3 or 4 months, we stopped looking for any investment and only making business development. So we focused, we were on the places where our clients are, we make some contacts, we secure our first pilot project, and then when you are ready, you go and pitch. And we pitch in a different event, and they just saw us 11 and invited us directly to the selection days. So it's like, when you're ready, this is the time to start looking for investment. So know what your investors are looking for before you're making any steps, flirting with them.
Okay, thank you. Some other stories of failure that actually led to improvements?
Yeah, so ours was very, very closely related to our 11 application process. At selection days, in 11 there are 2 phases. Initially, you pitch to a crowd of mentors, as you are, and ex-11 founders. So we received very strong feedback that our solution was not very much technologically feasible, that we will have a very tough time and very long implementation process. And this was the day before the final pitch in front of the investors. So we had a tough night, shifting the focus and the positioning of our proposition to incorporate, as it is right now, a mix of personal service and tech enhancement that makes things effective and scalable. So it was really vital. Shifting this from one day to the next was really vital to securing the round from 11.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Some other insights? Okay.
Can I share a few more?
Sure, absolutely.
Very short one. So one is, don't ever make your first meeting with investors via Skype or online, unless you're 100% sure that the technical requirements are set, but you cannot be sure at any point about that. So it can lead to some very unpleasant experiences. And another one is, make sure that your product or your demo is working good or decently. And if it's not, don't bring it, because that will save you a lot of sweating.
Okay, thank you. Milena, I was actually going to take this back to you and ask you, as somebody who's been the judge, a mentor, and has been identified as a pioneer of entrepreneurship in Bulgaria, what would be your advice in terms of what actually works, what are the key success factors, and where do you usually see entrepreneurs fail when they pitch their ideas?
First thing, I just wanted to say that we are actually thinking of setting up a failure competition, a failure challenge up, because it's not simply about failing, it's more about your resistance and your virality in a way to fight and to perceive this not as a failure but as a learning, and not to be discouraged, and in fact to feel more, pumped up with energy, or to feel the challenge of, oh, it wasn't a failure, it was just a mistake, it didn't work like that, but I am really excited and eager to go on and to make something work. It's a question of attitude. So that's why I think watch out for this. We've been discussing in the fall, we will have the first failure challenge up. Hope some of you can join. I wanted to give 2 very, I think, simple maybe suggestions. One is, all of these investors, funds, gurus, whatever, people with money, in fact, most of all, they're people. So, they're human beings in the end. And often, I've been in quite a few of these panels where the thing that really works is you try to capture the fact that there is something that makes them tick. So you need to find out what is their human passion and what they actually would perceive or see in that opportunity, in that business that you're proposing to them. I noticed with Kuknall, that's the name, right? I have seen, in fact, in one of the classes which I was teaching, we gave this example of innovation, and it was related again to improvement in the costs in saving in the toilets of a lot of airports in the Scandinavian countries, because they introduced a very small innovation which was not at all high-tech, high rocket science, but it was a simple whatever drawing, and they were observing the process in the way people were using the toilets, or they made an improvement in that process. But it was a huge innovation that made so much money and was so simple. So another suggestion would be also to look for the products or the services that are really serving the customers. This is my second recommendation. Look for what the customers really want. And is the basis, is the trend in the global economy now. There is the shift from everything else that was before. The value is now on what you bring and co-create together with the customer as a type of value from your business. So that would be my recommendation, to always look for these ways where you can actually be creating the value and show, when you do the pitching, your value for the customers.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, I would like to ask now for some very, very practical aspects, about some very practical aspects of pitching. So, preparing for a presentation such as this, or a presentation in front of investors, is associated with a lot of stress. It sometimes feels like you have a one-time shot at this. So how do you guys manage with the stress? How do you manage to prepare yourself for a presentation where you're actually casual, not too casual of course, but casual, and have a flowing, easy flowing presentation?
Failing works a lot. The thing is that when you go on stage, you should think of what is the worst thing that can happen. Fail, people to laugh at you. And the thing is, I've been on stage because I'm also a musician, and I've done so much dumb stuff on stage. And, I've felt very awkward. But then after some time, you get used to it and you stop paying attention. So fail as much as you can.
Okay, great advice. And then you also will have a venue where you can actually participate with your failure, so...
Yeah, by the way, because we were talking about gurus and stuff, I was thinking that if I failed with a startup, I could set myself as a failing guru. At least I'm going to be guru in some field, so try to reach this point.
All right, thank you.
For my case, public presentations is something that is not so easy for me because I'm a programmer, so it doesn't come natural for me. But I must say, it does involve a certain amount of stress, but preparation is key. If you're really prepared and know your lines and you're confident with your slides and your text, it will show on stage. And it definitely helps having some friendly people by your side while you're doing it.
Okay, great advice. Some other practical tips?
So, pitching on the stage is a little bit different, but it's a part of the selling process, and it's not so different to sell to the customer and to present in front of the customers and presenting to the investors. The pitch is a little bit different, the messages are a little bit different, but the sales experience from a salesperson or communication skills are basics for success.
Okay.